this video, we will go over the basics of using Formative. In addition to creating your own formatives, a quick way to get started with the program is to go to the library on the left-hand side and then select the toggle button for public. This will allow you to search formatives that have been created by other teachers. In the search box, you type in a topic and you will see results on your screen. If you don't see any results, that means that there are no formatives related to your topic, or you may have to refine your search. To quickly add a formative to your activities, you can click on the plus button. Now you can see this formative has been added to your formatives list. To view the formative, you can click on the Activities tab on the left-hand side. Here you will see a list of all of your formatives. To view the formative that you just added, hover over the name and click on it. At this point, you can scroll down, view all the questions, and you can also change the settings. You can copy it, you can move it, delete it. You can have AI generate you a similar question, and you can also tweak the question. As you make changes, you do not have to save. All of these saving happens automatically. You can add a correct answer here. You can add a hint. You can set standards. If you click on settings, there's also additional toggles that you can turn on for the question. We will go over this information in more detail later. For now, we are going to return back to the home menu and then go back to your activities. Any formative that you would like to delete, you can click on and then click the delete button. Now we're going to search for the same lesson, but we're going to add it a different way. We're going to click on Library. Now notice that coding is still here because it was the last thing we searched for. We're going to toggle Public. And here's the lesson that I added earlier. Instead of hitting the plus, this time I'm going to click on it. This will allow me to preview the formative before I add it into my list. At this point, I cannot make any changes because I haven't added it yet. To add the formative, you click Add this formative. Now, if I return to my activities on the left-hand side, you'll notice that it's back in my list. And at that point, I can open it and make any changes that I'd like to make. Next, we will create a formative from scratch. What's great about this is that we can make up our own questions, or we can pull questions from other formatives on the internet. To get started, we're going to click on Create, and then we will select Formative. First thing you'll need to do is name your formative. First, I'm going to create a tag. The tags are useful if you would like to create common assessments within your school. You select the year. You select the grade range. You can select your subject. And then you can select what type of formative this is. So if it's a lesson, if it's a formative assessment, if it's a summative assessment, if it's homework. So for this, I'm just going to select a summative assessment. And you can see all of my tags appearing. If you want to add instructions, you can click here. You can set student instructions, or you can add teacher notes. Once you type it in, you can close out And then there's a box here for student instructions. And you can also edit the background if you choose. You can search a Google image. So if I type in music, I can add a little icon here if I wanted. If you are not happy with the image, you can either change it or you can just set a background color. Now for the first question, we have some options. We can add a question from their bank. We can upload a file. We can search for existing library items, which are formatives from the internet, or you can import from your Google Drive. We'll start off simple with a true and false question. So I'm going to click on Add Question or Content, and I will select True False. Now notice it immediately brings me down to set up the question. In the box, I will enter the first question. Once I enter the question, now I have to select what the answer is. And select false. Now I can start adding more questions. Formative will suggest other questions for me to add, or I can hit the plus button to add another question. Now from here, I have my whole item bank. I can click here if I want to upload an image or a document. If I want it to come from my computer, I can click here. If I want to add it from my Google Drive, I can click here. And then I also have some other options as well. For this, I'm going to add a picture. So I have this picture in two places. I have it on my computer and I have it on Google. So we'll go through both. Unfortunately, it does not show my folders. So the easiest way to look it up is to figure out what you're trying to add and then type the name of the file. So I am adding an image and I will type in the name of the image and then click search. And this is my image here. So if I click select, or if I select it and I click select, now it's showing me my image. The other way to do this is to click the back arrow and select it from your computer. So if I click here, I have to find the file, which the file is in my screenshots folder, select my image, and then click open. Now notice it is the same exact image. To add the file, you click Add Image. Now the nice thing about adding a file is that you can click on the image if you want to add questions to certain parts of the image. So for this, I want my student to identify the notes on the scale. So I'll start with my first note here and I'll click. Notice that there's a plus button and I can add a short answer to the question. And notice there's a number 2 here. This is question 2. And I'll ask my question here. Because this is a short answer, I have to type in the correct answer. So for here, I will select the correct answer. If I want to add another question to this image, I just simply click where I want to add it. So I'll add one right here. And I'll add another short answer. And I'll ask the same question. Here, I'll add another answer. And if I want to keep adding questions, it's just simply clicking on the staff or on the image and adding a question. Now for the third question, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to click on the plus button and I'm going to select up here where it says Library plus Item Bank to search for a question from the Internet Bank of Formatives. Click in the search box and type in your subject. If you don't see this box here, you have to make sure that the filter is toggled on. Otherwise, you will not see the search box. So once you type in, you can select if you want to drill down a little bit more and select a certain grade or a subject. The subject could be helpful to narrow down your options, so I'll click on it and go to music. Now I'm going to select this formative here. Now notice, as I'm hovering over the questions, I have an add button. I'm going to scroll down until I can find a question that I want to add. We will select this question here. Now when I click add, it says successfully added item to formative. And at this point, you can close out of the item bank. Now notice it automatically added the question as the last question in my formative. And it shows the correct answer. Now at this point, I have a 4-question test set up for formative. Let's return back to the first question so that we can go over some settings and also look at how we can use AI to generate additional questions. So for this question, if I want to add a hint, I can click add hint. Notice I can type my hint here, or I can have AI generate me a hint. So if I click here, I have 3 options that I can add as a hint. This one looks really good. So I will click on this and I will click add. Now notice again, there goes my hint, and the student will see it when they're actually taking the test. If I want to link this question to a set of standards, I can click here and I can select my standards. If you click settings, you'll have additional toggles for each question type, and they do vary by question type. So for here, I will make sure I turn on required. This is very important as you don't want students to skip any questions on your test. I also can change the point value of the question by clicking in the box and changing the number. I will leave it at 1 point for now. Next, we have more options. If I click here, I can delete the question, I can move it, I can copy it, or I can generate something similar. If I copy it, it will make a duplicate of the question. If I'd like to move it, I can click on the move button, and then I can select anywhere on the test that I would like to move the question to. So I will move it to the end. And notice now it is not at the top anymore, and it reordered all of my questions. So initially, this was actually question number 2. Now it is question number 1. If I want to generate a question that is similar to this question, I can click on my more options and I can select generate similar. When I do that, it's going to bring up a menu. Here I want to keep it true and false, and it automatically reads what type of question this is. It uses my grade range from when I set up the formative. It uses my subject. It also asks me other questions. If I want to change the difficulty, if I want to change the language, and it asks me how many questions I'd like to generate. For this, I have 1 question that it gave me. If I would like to generate a different question, I can click regenerate questions. But for here, I'm going to select add. Now notice it added this question to the end of my test. And again, if I want to move this somewhere else, I can select more options. I can move it. If I want to delete it, I can click delete. Your formative is now complete. At this point, we recommend that you click on the preview button. This is a way so you can see what the test will look like from the student side. It automatically defaults to a small screen, which would be a phone. The middle one would be a tablet, and the first one is a large screen, which would be a laptop. So I recommend that you click on the laptop, and then if you click the start button here, you'll see the test as the student sees it. So the test launches, you see the instructions, and then you can see all of the questions on the left-hand side here. Notice there is a star here. That means this is the only question that I set up that is required. As you click next, you'll notice that you're seeing each question on the test. And again, that required asterisk appears on this question. I do recommend that you make each question required if this is a test. You'll also notice that this question has a little bulb. That is a hint bulb. Click Next. And then the final question has a submit button. Once you're finished looking at the preview, you can click the X. And from here, if you wanted to add any more questions, you can scroll down and add more questions. Once the test is ready to be assigned, you can click Assign and select the class that you want to assign it to, or we use Schoology to assign and automatically grade the formatives. To learn how to do this, you will go to Prep Central, How To, Formative, and the name of the video is Formative in Schoology, Setup and Grade Passback.